I heard that there was a piece of that curriculum that brought in queer studies. So, when you talk about the LGBT community and things like that, and my thought with that, my take on that is, I've always been bothered by the fact of how we have tried to tie both of these movements together. Absolutely. One of the other things that I and I'll bring this up, Sonia, while I have you online. In Florida, I have been hearing over the last couple of weeks about the AP, as we talk about race, the AP history classes, Black history classes, that I think is Ron Desantis, he's the governor, he kind of denied those. And, transparently, when I first heard it, I'm like, oh man, it's a situation where, again, people are trying to keep Black people from understanding or knowing their history. I do think that there is a sect out there in the country that's trying to keep us unaware of our history as Black people. But I actually, as the week has gone on, I found more and more information about the denial of it, and one of the things that I heard, and as somebody was kind of going through the actual curriculum, I heard that there was a piece of that curriculum that brought in queer studies. So when you talk about the LGBT community and things like that, and my thought with that, my take on that is, I've always been bothered by the fact of how we have tried to tie both of these movements together. I was having a conversation with the older gentleman, I want to say yesterday, and me being a Black man, or my skin color, like, that was not a choice of mine. Like, I was born that way, and how people choose to see me or relate to me is not really a choice that I've made. But who your sexual partner is, or who you are attracted to sexually, I believe that's a choice. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your movement or you shouldn't have rights or anything like that, but I do think it gets confusing when you try to bring both of those together, because they're not the same in my eyesight.
It's comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah. And I think it confuses things. Like Black Lives Matter, I think was a very good start to a movement, but again, it tied in a lot of these nuances that really didn't have anything to do with Black Lives Mattering, if that makes sense, right? And so, again, nothing against people who choose to practice LGBTQ plus type things. I think I've made it very clear, my feelings about that. But I think that's a separate movement. And, what I would say is they've probably made more traction in their movement
than we have.
And we've been kind of struggling with our movement for over 400 years. Like, there's in 10 years, I've seen more traction in laws and things being changed around to address their movement than in the Black community. And so I just think it should be separated. I think it should be two different things, just like this, if that's what's holding, people back from approving an AP, Black history class, then why is that even part of the curriculum? Like, to me, it doesn't involve my history for me to know that.
Right, I got you.
That piece of it, So that's the other big news thing I've been, kind of seeing throughout the week as well. I don't know if you had any thoughts or insight on that too.
I'm about the same. Like, as far as sexuality, we got sex classes for that, and then history. It's like, I don't care what your sexual orientation is as far as history is concerned. Just tell me the facts of what happened. This is what happened in history. I don't care if they was, straight, gay, or whatever they were. I don't know what part that would necessarily play into me knowing my history. So I'm with you. It should be separate. I'm not sure why we have to tie it together or why we even need to know. Just, tell me my, real history, without sugarcoating and making it up and saying, giving me an indoctrination instead of just telling me my history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's kind of the take I've seen, and this is an example of something that I think we'll talk about as we move further into this show. I could have, my first initial thought when it happened was, man, there's, here's something else that's trying to be, and again, it could be, a reason that's being used to ultimately say, hey, we don't want to teach Black history in our school or whatever. But again, I'm the type of person where, remove all the excuses, right? Like, why would we put something in there that would, indoctrinate people to, a certain lifestyle, when it has nothing to do with Black history,
Right.
And that was just over the course of letting things kind of play out. We've talked a lot about, political differences within the church. And depending on what media source you listen to, what kind of information you get from it. And, like I said, the spin that I heard when I first heard this was, we don't want to teach Black history in Florida schools. And it was just that, right? But then when the curriculum started coming out and people started explaining,
Right.
different parts of it, then it started actually making sense to me.
It's like, you want to bring in the other agendas in with the Black history and tie them together when they really has no bearings on Black history. I got you.
Yeah. Eventually, if you give it time and you study, the facts will come out. Like, they'll reveal themselves, and you can kind of see what's really happening with that. So, what I wanted to get into, I have another video this week, kind of give you a recap, or if you didn't